There we go, and welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Tuesday, July 20th. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain, and many of the stories right here can also be found at our website, IndianCountryTV.com. Here are some of the news stories from the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. 2 former Bureau of Indian Affairs employees have pled guilty in Great Falls, Montana to their roles in the theft of $1 million from a tribal credit program. One other person has already pled guilty, and the other 3 defendants have reached plea agreements, according to court records. Shelley Pipe, 44, a BIA loan specialist from Wolf Point, and Paul J. Bemer, 41, of Popular, a BIA loan assistant, each pled guilty last week to conspiracy to steal from a tribal organization, conspiracy to obstruct a federal audit, and receiving compensation as a federal employee from a source other than the federal government. Tribal leaders, members, and employees engaged in preparing business plans, financial forecasts, real estate transactions, and other business development activities will gather September 27th through the 29th at Treasure Island Casino and Hotel in Red Wing, Minnesota, for the 2010 Business Development in Indian Country Conference. Produced by Bus Productions and hosted by the Prairie Island Indian community, this informational-packed event gathers hundreds of tribal and native country business leaders from across the U.S. to address the most critical issues and new economic opportunities facing Indian country in this day and age. Under the theme Participate, Network, and Learn, this 3-day event will offer a keynote address on navigating today's economy, workshops on identifying and capturing diversified business opportunities, and certification programs in tribal economic development. Networking opportunities and vendor information are also scheduled to support those involved in Indian country business development. Emerging from a long history of settler oppression, many 21st century American Indians and Alaska Natives still live on reservations without running water, but the indigenous people of Denver, Colorado have looked as far as the Philippines for progression of their people and the preservation of their tribal cultures. The Denver Indian Center is partnering with 20 participants from 7 countries to evaluate and improve its operations. The participants of CISV, an international peace organization, have reached out to local businesses including Sprint, Best Buy, and Microsoft for volunteers to help revamp the Indian Center as part of a sustainable international peoples project. The project focuses on 3 areas: an oral history documentation, a youth camp, and the creation of an early education center. The Oral History Project entails a video, print, and photographic documentation of community elders and their experiences of the Relocation Act of 1954, and 5 of the international participants are engaging local volunteers to help run a week-long youth camp for Native youth ages 9 through 14. Only a trained eye would have been able to spot the fragile evidence left behind perhaps hundreds of years ago by Native peoples traversing the semi-arid footholds of the Pryor Mountains in the Bighorn Canyon National Recreation Area of Montana. It was only by chance that National Park Service archaeologist Chris Finley saw them at all, long strands of weathered wood that he identified immediately as pieces of ancient tepee poles. When he saw the first one a year ago, Finley had been scrambling down a rocky incline checking on the work of contract archaeologists who were surveying in advance of a plan by the Western Area Power Administration to rebuild transmission lines through the park. After Finley showed the remnants to Crow tribal members monitoring the survey, they started seeing them everywhere. Soon they had counted 22 pole fragments, most of them 4 to 6 feet long, but one that measured 12 feet long. 3 affiliated tribes chairman Marcus Levings says he will not seek a second term of office. Levings says he recently met with U.S. Senator Byron Dorgan, the North Dakota Democrat who is not seeking re-election. He says Dorgan appeared relaxed and happy, and it kind of got him thinking. Levings says he wants to spend more time with his family and wants to fish and golf again. He says he has not made any definitive plans for the future. Levings was elected in the year 2006 when he defeated 2-term chairman Tex Hall. Before that, Levings served 8 years on the tribal council. The tribe with 12,000 enrolled members will hold its primary election in September and the general election come November. The Trenton, North Dakota Indian Service area is considering a bingo hall to generate revenue for programs. The service area was the service area was established in the 1970s to serve members of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa who moved to northwest North Dakota and northeast Montana years ago. Tribal operations consultant Tony Moran says it's short on money for everything from housing to patient care. Moran says the service area in the past held successful bingo games at the Trenton Community Building, but not since 1990. He says plans for a new bingo hall are preliminary, though the service area has obtained a tribal gaming license and identified 3 possible sites. Moran says the service area serves 2,600 enrolled members or direct descendants of the Turtle Mountain tribe, as well as 650 members of other tribes in the area. The Kenaitze tribe started a 5-day camp recently to teach youth traditional fishing practices. Youth Service Coordinator Michael Bernard taught predominantly Kenaitze youth how to build fish-catching baskets, prepare the salmon, and hang the fish for smoking. Bernard said the camp focuses on preserving not only traditional fishing means and techniques, but also the values behind tribal harvesting practices. The camp teaches students to treat fish and natural resources with respect, he said. And that's going to be the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to say miigwech for coming by here and watching us, and come back and see us again. Watch later this week for some live streaming from the Native American Journalists Conference in St. Paul, Minnesota as well. You take care.